Good morning and welcome to the CADclass podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Jake.
Y'all know the drill. We're here to share inspiring stories, show off to some of the things that you made, and announce a couple of announcey things. That's what we do.
Wow, we
announcing things.
really nailed that intro, Josh.
You know,
Nailed it. We nail it every week.
To me, I do wish we do. Yeah, even though we do this all the time, you can tell we really go all out for the prep of the
Yeah. Especially with our sets.
Yeah. I'm standing this week. I was like, I don't want to sit. I can't sit.
You're
so
standing?
So I'm standing. I know. Some kind of
That means I would have to mess up my entire camera setup.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying you have to stand. I'm saying I'm standing.
Do you know what would be good? So I've got a camera set up here, obviously, for all of my A shots, but I also have this ring right here. That's my overhead shot. So I would love to do a podcast from that position. Just me laying down, just right here.
That'd be kind of funny.
Just the entire pod going. I'd really love to show you how to make stuff on Fusion, but I can't.
Yeah. I'm on. It's the wrong view.
Wrong view.
So good morning. Good morning, Cadence. Good morning, Jonathan, Cornelia, Ogre, Ken. Ken changed his name after posting the first good morning to Grandpa Makes Ken. Just right. I see Ken R and then Grandpa Makes Ken. And then I see Adrian Edwards. Adrian, welcome. That's maybe
hello.
Yeah, it's nice to be with you all.
So first off, sorry about missing last week. I was so unbelievably sick. You can probably hear I'm still a bit muggy. I woke up Wednesday morning just feeling absolutely awful. My head was one gigantic sinus. And I was feeling awesome. And so terribly sorry. I was planning on doing like a little bit of a Halloween episode. That'd be kind of rad.
Yeah.
Completely missed it. And so I was so maybe next year.
Speaking of Halloween, we did get some pretty cool stuff from that week. We did get some really cool ghosts. So why don't we start by showing some of those off?
I dig it. I really dig it. Did you get any trick-or-treaters this year?
We don't get any. So I'm in Midtown Sacramento, and so we're right next door to the ritzy area. It's called East Sac. And East Sac is where all the trick-or-treaters go. Right? So if I went to Midtown, I'm gonna get like the tiny little piece of candy. But if I go to East Sac, those people have money. They'll give me the big candy bar. So East Sac, that's where all the families are. So I was pretty disappointed actually. The first year that I was here, I was sitting on the front porch, all stoked to pass out some candy, and nobody arrived. Literally zero people.
Yep.
So
there we go. So we got one kid. That's it. Lame.
Oh,
I know. Everyone's doing trunk or treat, and it sucks. Everyone hates it.
So the challenge, can I introduce the challenge just briefly?
Absolutely.
So we're looking at the ghost challenge. Jake, one of the things that you and I have talked quite a bit about is starting to use the form and the shaping tools, right? They're called the form tools, right? I always call them the form tools. Is this what they're called?
Yeah. It's the form workspace.
The form workspace, right? So
within the design workspace.
So that people can do more organic shapes. And so I had shared a little project that one of our old friends, I guess he's still a friend, but
he's still with us.
Yeah. So Truman sent me a tutorial on how to make these ghosts. And so highly encourage you all, if you're listening to the pod, just poke around a little bit in the forms workspace. You could just drag and pull and push and kind of just get a little bit.
It's very different to everything else that we normally do.
Very, very different. Yeah. And a lot of people end up using different programs to do this kind of stuff. So Blender is a really popular choice for doing stuff like this. But Fusion will do it. And not everybody, I think, realizes that. So what are we looking at here, Jake?
So essentially, the whole idea with form tools is that you start out with a very simple bit of geometry, cubes, cylinders, spheres, etc., and you can actually subdivide all of the faces, and then which gives you even more control. And essentially, you can click and drag on any node or vertex or point or corner, anything you'd like, and you can move in any direction you want or any rotation that you want. And it does take a little while to do, but you can essentially make anything you want in a much more organic and less dimensionally driven way. That being said, it still takes a very long time to do. The whole point of it being in Fusion, if I can find a reasonable example, is that you can essentially make organic shapes that interface with more dimensionally driven things. A really classic example is like any drills or any tools of any kind. Let's say Autodesk Fusion actually. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Fusion 360. That's fine. Like any time that you have a tool that is obviously has to have really rigid, defined locations of any drill holes or any mounting screws, or a motor has to exactly fit in this place, but it also needs to be ergonomic and nice to hold. Then that's when you can kind of meet the two worlds. That being said, it is still really, really rather difficult. It's not something that I've mastered. It's something that I want to master this year and next year, actually, because I believe we're playing around with the idea of edition 3 next year of our Mastering Autodesk Fusion, going over forms in a really nice and easy, simple to meet way, but a really fantastic beginner project is just to make something cutesy and fun, and it doesn't need to be anything perfect. It's one of the kind of guiding principles that we've talked about a lot here, is that if you want to pick up a new tool or a new bit of software and you want to get more and more comfortable with it, don't just make anything random. Make something that you like. Make something that actually makes you feel good, because you will put more and more effort into making it look that a little bit better, and you'll learn a ton more about it. So making little decorations like this, or making little tools for your workshop, things that nobody's ever going to see, but it's just something lovely, it's perfect. It really is fantastic. And so going on, this was a really, really nice little model.
Oh,
So cute. So lovely. And then the original one, that Truman made, a
that
little
well,
bit
that yeah,
less.
that was the tutorial that I shared on YouTube that kind of
Mm,
got him into that world. So,
so nice as well. And then Dairy rendering it, lovely.
and
Super
then
duper creepy.
yeah, I love that one. Look at that.
When was the last time you saw Scream, Josh?
Oh man, wow,
Oh,
20 years ago.
what? I see it every year.
When's the last time you watch Scream every year?
I watch horror movies almost every single day. I love horror movies.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's just screaming Ghostface. That's awesome. ZDP doing it in Tinkercad, super impressive as always. Super rad. And Cozy as well. That is so flipping cool.
Was that Connie?
Yeah, just making it look so good.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Oh, and then Connie, another ghost, even better. I'm just shocked that they're making this in Fusion. That's just so impressive.
That's a I like that render.
I'm so impressed. So ridiculously good. And then ZDP making us.
That
Oh,
is
but
so
which one
good.
is which? Which one is which?
Well, we know which I mean, we know which one has the skinny head, so that would be me. Sign me up here.
How dare you? How dare you?
Or as some would
Oh,
call it, a pinhead. I've got the tiniest little head. I wear kid-size hats. It's kind of outrageous. It's kind of outrageous. I couldn't accept that fact for a long time in my life, but I've officially accepted it. I buy kids'
yeah.
glasses. It's just what can I say? What can I
Oh,
say? But challenges. So, Jake, I want to tease the challenge and talk a little bit about it right now, because the challenges have
mhm,
become something that I'm pretty excited to see you guys working on, and seeing these new projects come in every week. And so, Jake,
mhm.
we're talking about making it a much larger part of the CADclass strategy, that
Yeah.
we take this challenge idea, we continue to do those weekly challenges, most likely, or bi-weekly, or whatever happens to be, but that we blow it up even bigger,
Mhm.
because I have a hunch that our community can make some epic stuff in the real world. I
Yeah.
actually think the design skills that we possess as a group are outrageous. And we're
Oh my
seeing
gosh,
some of
yeah.
those design skills every week. So I've got it in my head that if we do this right, that we could launch a design and innovation challenge. Maybe it's a yearly thing, a much bigger
Mhm.
overall project. For now, it won't be. And that what you guys create in this community will completely blow us away.
Yeah.
So if we get bigger in our thinking, if we get bigger in our ambitions, if we try to tie it to something that's socially good, that actually solves real problems for real people in this world, maybe those problems are your problems, and maybe those problems are problems that you've experienced in your communities, or something like this, that we can do some great stuff together.
Yeah.
So the thinking is that we want to do a microfarm challenge. We're hoping to get a grant in Sacramento to do it locally as well. But that microfarm challenge is just simply challenging people to make something around the idea of sustainability and food in particular. So
Mhm.
there are places here in Sacramento that are known as food deserts where there is basically no healthy food anywhere in sight.
Yeah.
So one of the projects that some of our students created were hydroponics towers. So you can grow vegetables with a 3D printed hydroponics tower in your living room, and it does really well. They fruits well. It's pretty low
Mhm.
maintenance. It does things like that, and it gives students the opportunity to solve those problems actually in their backyard. So
Can you
our
describe what a
challenge.
hydroponics tower is for anyone who doesn't
So
know?
let me
Because
see
it
if
is a
I.
trippy idea.
Yeah,
I do love telling people about it that don't know what it is.
I wonder if maybe a picture is more appropriate. Can you
Yeah.
just, you are better at screen sharing than me. Can you just search really quickly? Can you
Yeah,
Google
yeah,
hydroponics tower? We're going to show some
absolutely.
photos. So the idea is hydroponics tower, planter pot. Maybe it's a self-watering planter pot. Could anything around food, agriculture, sustainability. So the challenge is come up with something that solves a real problem around food or plants. So hydroponics tower is essentially just it's a pot of water with some nutrients mixed into it and a pump
Mhm.
that sends the water up to the top, and that pump trickles down over the plants that don't actually get planted in soil. It's just the root
Mhm.
system that's raw and exposed, and that root system gets watered directly, right?
Yeah.
Jonathan already has an idea. This is something you guys can collaborate on, and I want to, as you're showing off some of these photos, Jake, I want to also ask for your help. So Jake and I want you all to be a part of the creation of this microfarm challenge. So what we're interested in is your process. How are you coming up with ideas? Are you sketching it on a piece of paper? How would we take this concept and grow it worldwide so that anybody can participate from anywhere? So we not only want you to come up with an idea around, some plant or innovation or idea, but we also want your help in execution. So
Mhm.
let us know. This is going to be, I'm going to say this is a 2-week challenge, Jake,
I
right?
think it's a good idea. Yeah.
So I want to give it 2 weeks and I want to see process and I want to hear feedback about what it is that you're working on and why you think it's important and see if we can't build something epic together. And I'm
Mhm.
seeing some new people. So, you know what we typically do as well, Jake? We shout out graduates.
We do.
And we have a new
True.
one, and I
We
just saw
do,
him in the
that's right.
chat.
Hey,
Rahits. Rahits, super congratulations for finishing the entire CADclass curriculum. It is
congratulations.
congratulations.
Golf clap.
Whoa! It is really nice to have you. We are stoked. I saw you answering questions in our community
Mhm.
immediately after you graduated. Nothing makes me
Which is the
happier
best thing. It is so good.
than
I
our
love it.
graduates completing the program and then immediately going in and helping somebody else. So
Yes.
huge shout out Rahits. And then I see a couple of other new folks in here too. Um, it's awesome to have you.
Yeah.
It's awesome to have you. Jake,
As
was that a can you clarify? So I just rambled there for a bit. Can you clarify what am I talking about here? What kind of challenge am I talking about?
So I'm going to bring it back really quick just to get people a little bit more interested in the topic because aquaponics is a really rad. It conceptually, it's like, oh my god, that's such a new, awesome idea. But it's technically, well, it's theoretically technically been around for thousands of years. So it's one of the so a hydroponic system. The idea is that you have a continually circulating system of water that feeds an entire crop. It's a soilless crop. So the roots are just kind of dangling into water. And on much larger systems, instead of actually putting nutrients into the water, you actually incorporate fish into it. So the idea is that in a circulating system, you feed the fish, who then go, delicious. How about some poop? The poop then goes into the water supply, gets pumped through the plants, which then obviously fertilizes them and introduces nitrogen into the plants, which are incredibly necessary. The plants grow. The plants then purify the water, which then is pumped through and then falls off a little bit of a height, which then introduces aeration into the water for the fish, and this gets circulated. So I don't know if it's ever been confirmed, but it's one of the hypotheses of how like early civilizations in desert regions like ancient Egypt were able to grow so rapidly. and how did they feed all these people in areas that obviously don't get a tremendous amount of rainfall, is, well, if you have an aquaponics system, even like a really, really rudimentary one, you can have unbelievably large crops that require a tiny amount of water, a fantastically tiny amount. And it's this really, really rad circulatory system. If you've never heard about him on YouTube, I've been watching him for years, and I know Josh has as well. There's a chap called Cody's Lab, which we absolutely love. We saw him at Open Source this year. He was walking around with copper chainmail armor because he was going to get zapped by a Tesla bolt. And he's a chemist who lives on his own plot of land in Utah, and he has access to mines, and so he mines his own elements that he then does science with. He's one of those unbelievably intelligent people in a scientific field who then looks at science as an art, a little bit in the way that Tesla did. So it's just like, yeah, it needs a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And it just all makes sense to him. And it's fantastic. And he did a gigantic hydroponic system. I think on the downside of his house, he just borrowed a bunch of like 5-gallon buckets, like hundreds of them, and had a tilapia farm at the bottom of his plant. And he just pumped it. And he's like, yeah, I just made a year's supply of lettuce and kale and strawberries. And I'm like, that's so rad. I've been wanting to do that for so long, and I think now's the time to do it. I think it'd be awesome.
It's so rad. I also need to create. I started creating mine. I have pieces of my hydroponics tower. Doesn't have to be a hydroponics tower, by the way. There's a couple of other ideas in here too. Jake, you and I actually started pretty early on with another product that kind of inspired the hydroponics tower idea.
Yes.
Do you remember what product that was?
That would be the moss pole.
Moss pole.
Absolutely nowhere. But that's okay.
Back when we had dreams and ambitions of turning ourselves into product people rather than course people, we built moss poles, which are basically plant support towers, 3D printed moss poles. And actually, I thought your design concept was great. So they came in pieces. They were modular. They screwed together.
All different designs, all different colors.
And they were themed. So one of them was space themed. One of them was a honeycomb, kind of like beehive theme.
Yeah.
And another one was, what was the third one?
The
the double helix. Yeah, the double helix, the DNA double helix. I thought those themes were amazing. So themes, highly encouraged, right? I think there's even though hydroponics towers already exist, they don't necessarily exist in the themes that you may create. So there's that. There's also these things called propagation tubes. So I don't know a ton about plants. I'm speaking out of my... Yes, I'm speaking out of turn here.
Propagation exists.
Propagation
I think that's
tubes,
fairly okay.
You fill a tube with some water, you put a plant in it, its roots kind of come down, right? And I saw one recently that really inspired me. And it was a design of a local plant with an attachment to hang it on the wall and a little holder for the tube. So it was meant to be a wall decoration. So it's a test tube
I really love
held up on the wall with a leaf shape. And it was all 3D printed. And it was 3D printed of the local flora and fauna. And I thought, wow, you could do an entire wall of propagating plants where each leaf is in the shape of the plant that it's actually propagating, and build like a little museum-y type, like, this is this plant, it's native here, this is what it does.
I really dig that.
That
makes me really happy.
Really like it. So that's 3 ideas, and there are many, many more. Please, someone design a Saturn V hydroponics tower. That sounds like your challenge, PC Van Vliet.
Yeah,
that is you. That sounds...
Speaking of,
awesome.
Can I share something really quick?
Yeah, please do.
Finally, I made a stand for my rocket, and it's it's definitely not going to fit in frame.
That's hilarious.
Oh my god.
Oh
yeah, is that not rad?
That is way... When you were describing it on the phone, I don't know why, but I could not picture what you were talking about.
Yeah. So it completely hollow. This took so flipping long to print. But yeah, good lord. Can I just really quickly, can I commandeer this podcast and just talk about the process that goes into this? Yeah. So obviously really organic, crumbly shapes that I don't know how to make for just like fire going down. So I found a model like this. It had 5 pips that go into it. didn't know if that actually fit into the scale, so I measured it in my slicer. I'm like, oh, cool. I know the actual size of my full rocket model, so I need to expand it up proportionally. I think it's like 140%. Sliced it off at the bottom, printed that section, still too small, scaled it up a little bit more, just a test print, fit perfectly. Cool. There are bolts that connect the thrusters into the main housing, so I needed to use negative volume cylinders to cut out the top of the pips. But as soon as you blow it up so big, then the entire model doesn't actually fit into any reasonable size print volume. So I had to cut and then recompress and squish and cut off all of the random islands that fit into this. And then I was like, oh, I've got a multicolor printer now. So then recoloring all of it and fitting different colors into it. This took so flipping long to do. And then it took a million years to assemble because the bolts are way at the bottom in there. I don't know if you can just barely see just how tiny those holes in there. This took so long to do. But this was my first overnight print on the Bamboo Lab that was also a multicolor. And it turned out great. It was it was a little bit stringy, but I'm learning more and more about multicolored prints and how to reduce waste because it still makes me feel bad seeing all of that poop and just learning all the little tips and tricks to reducing it. Oh, you actually don't need a purge tower because purge towers aren't for changing the color. It's actually only for reducing under extrusion when the nozzle's been sitting there for a second. So you actually technically don't need it. If you do want to reduce under extrusion, you can reduce prime towers by like 50%, and they still work exactly the same. So you can use half as much material. You don't need to have 100% conversion of color transitions. You only need 50%, and there's no color bleed essentially. So you can get away with reducing your poop by all your filament poop by half. So I'm slowly learning more and more.
Can you turn the purge tower into something you would actually use reproducibly?
Yes, you can. So you can set it as a purge. No, I think you can. If you're printing two separate things, you can essentially set one of them as the purge into thing. So essentially, every single layer just becomes, even if it uses all of it, it still just becomes that layer of material. Which is great. It actually is more usable, but it just means that that object is never going to be a normal colored thing. It's going to be all rando different colors and bleeds and bleh. So it'll look a little funky. But but I really dig it. And it's just so tall now.
I can't wait to take that out. Like I probably need to print one of those so that we have it for events.
Yeah.
Or have you mail me one.
I'll probably actually print one out for you.
Amazing.
But it's so big. And I also, as a separate idea, slowly printing more of just a spare lightsaber, which is so fun to say, and just have it on and just have it on a much longer threaded rod. But I actually want to make a little bit of stand for this, as it's like a lightsaber cutting through the tabletop.
Maybe
so
have some like light coming out.
I've got some glow in the dark green filament.
Oh, this is good.
I even got like 1 kilogram of that we used for an example. I still don't have a really good set of projects that need glow in the dark filaments. I still don't. It's so cool having it, but I don't have that many ideas, and I feel like this is gonna be rad. So I'm gonna do a big multicolor print where it's like on the base, it's got fire and stuff, and I can color it. Yeah, that's gonna be fun. I'm really excited.
You're gonna be excited about this one, Jake. Guess what I realized? So we're talking about writing a CAM fundamentals book as well, so we can get into the manufacturing a little bit more and focus it on students and educators, right? So guess what I realized? We can do a turning project.
Oh, for CNC? Yeah.
And guess what we can turn?
Ooh, we can turn some lightsaber parts.
We can turn the lightsaber. Oh. And I was like, ooh, this is good. I was like, why don't we turn it into a CNC project? So that was a fun thought. That was a fun thought. I was like, oh, we already have the project. We can do this. I want to say 2 more things. So one, Rahitz, we already shouted him out. So like morons, we forgot that we shouted him out. But somebody else did graduate that we haven't shouted out.
Oh, really?
And that person is Wise8976 on the Discord.
Whoa.
So Wise has also completed the entire program. Huge shout out, Wise. That's a feat. And now we are excited to have you be a part of the community, and said a couple of nice things in the lightsaber space prop hilt.
Yeah.
Dude. And I have a second shout out, and I think you know this one as well. And he's most likely not on this podcast, but he's our youngest entrepreneur.
Yeah. I do want you to talk about him.
We have a young, ambitious, incredible, started when he was 9, is now 10 entrepreneur. And he has managed to sell his product in 2 stores. He now has his product in Ace Hardware. He went to Ace. He took some of the things that he licensed. So he licenses and then edits and modifies models, prints them out. He knows Fusion. He also knows how to 3D print. By the way, he's welcomed today into the Bamboo family. He purchased an A1 with AMS.
Oh, he did.
But he walked in, and he himself walked up to the store manager and said, I make these things. You have a toy shelf over there. I would like to sell them on the shelf. Are you interested? And the guy said, absolutely. And he gave him a purchase order that day. So he got in the first store, and then he went to a second store and walked in and did the same thing. And it's apparently like a boutique, like kind of bougie kids toy store, and did it again. He's in 2 stores, and he's having a hard time keeping up with production. So he bought a third.
Yes.
So he bought a third 3D printer. And I think this kid is going to run the world.
Yeah.
So shout out to you. His name's David.
I'm so excited for David.
Shout out to you, David. We are inspired, excited. It's absolutely incredible. Printed by John said, I sell my products in stores, but that's crazy. This
I wasn't doing that when I was 10.
It gives me goosebumps thinking about this. And it's kind of like the hypothesis that we had from the beginning was that all you need to do is give people access to the tools and some good resources for figuring out how to use them, and then get out of the way.
Yeah.
Let them be creative. Like, so all we're doing is providing some of the technical foundation for this kind of stuff. And then in the back, we're going, yay. Just being stoked. I feel like the biggest cheerleader ever. So huge shout out to you, David. I've been getting texts from his mom, who's also blown away, right? Printed by John said, how do taxes work with that? We are not tax people. You're going to have to ask your tax person. But I'm assuming the stores would handle sales tax. And you would have some sort of wholesale relationship with them, which means there's some structures in place. I'm not a tax guy. Don't listen to me.
I'm sure his folks are looking out for him as well.
But he had to make the packaging. He had to make the labeling. He had to think through the whole system, and he's done it. He's done it all. He's got a clear packaging. It's really nice. It's got his label. It's got the little warning labels on there as well. He also managed to meet one of the founders of 3D printing, just by chance. So this kid is going places. I love.
I don't know if I know that story though.
So there was in his neighborhood, I don't remember this guy's name. This is shame on me, but somebody who was early / instrumental / maybe invented one of these printers was in his neighborhood, and he got introduced to him, and he knows all of the 3D printer creator people. He is So whoever this guy was, and again I forgot his name. His mom was just telling me, yep, David got to meet him. He gave him his number, said, please stay in touch. I'd love to keep chatting with you. So,
oh my God, that's amazing.
10. If David can do it, you guys can do it too. Yeah. Not that you want to do that. Not that that's the only pathway here. Like there's many different pathways, but huge shout out to you, David. I'm stoked.
Dude, that's fantastic.
I can't.
That makes me so happy.
It makes me so happy. And then was there a third thing? The lightsaber, the turning project. Ah, yes, Jake.
Oh yes, that's right.
Oh right.
What do I have in my hands?
What is this? What have we here?
Finally finished it. We've got after literally having people for years ask us to make this, we finally published our Fusion Fundamentals books. It is a in your pocket guide that you can take through cafe anywhere you'd like to finally learn the true fundamentals of Fusion. If you've already gone through the Mastering Autodesk Fusion book, there is I don't think there's a ton of reason to get started on this. But if you are a chapter in or 2 chapters in, and you're still feeling a little bit unsure about what everything is, you're feeling a little bit hesitant, overwhelmed potentially, then this is absolutely where you want to start. We've worked on this for months and months and months, and finally got it out. Full projects, but little smaller scale projects, essentially.
Smaller
But filled with
scale.
challenges, quizzes, step-by-step guides, tool reviews, tool introductions, all kinds of good stuff to actually learning truly the fundamentals of this CAD.
And I would say this is meant to be a guide. So for those of you in our community that end up going out and wanting to teach some of this stuff, this is what we would teach. This is designed to be a 12-hour Fusion Fundamentals book for people just starting out. And there's 2 copies. One is for students and one is for educators. The student version,
the student just got published this morning.
The student version got published this morning. It's not even up on Amazon yet. It's still waiting to populate, but it will be. And the instructor version is out. But it is designed to help aid in the process of teaching other people. So if you are thinking about maybe doing a little bit of teaching, which I highly encourage all of you to do, please lean into our resources to do that. This book will make your first 12 hours of training absolutely easy.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. And so we did this because we're Autodesk Learning Partners now, and they pay us to do these training sessions. And we thought, wouldn't it be nice if we had a book to go right alongside of our 12-hour training sessions? And so we wrote it to solve our own problem. So that's the pitch to you all. It doesn't have a lot of new information, although there is one new project in it, the brick ring, where you can attach your Legos to the top of a little ring that you make. Just a super fun, nifty little project. But other than that, it's much more focused on the workbook style, and it's different. It has a rubric for grading and understanding what people do and don't understand. It has a lot of places where it makes you stop and ask questions about what's happening in the software.
You can edit your models and mess it up as well.
Edit it, mess it up, change it, make modifications to it, but deliberately slowing you down and forcing you to think about what you're doing and why. The same with constraints, right? You know, constraints and dimensions and when to use which one, I think, is one of those early obstacles a lot of people have. So yeah, so that's what it's meant for. So even if you personally won't use it, if you do think you're going to teach some courses, now you've got your guide.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, Josh, I think we need to wrap this up early. You got to head out. I have to do some filming today.
We have a lot to do, don't we?
A lot to do.
So as a recap, though, I want to just, we'll drop some more information in the chat. So this week's challenge is the Microfarm Challenge. Design something for plants. We gave you 3 ideas on the pod: the hydroponics tower, the propagation tube holder that is a piece of wall art, and the moss pole, where the vine plants are designed to grab into this structure and grow higher and higher and higher. There are so many plant-based ideas that have not been done that would be totally freaking rad. And even if your idea is an old idea, but it's the design, like turning our Saturn V rocket into a moss pole, that's freaking rad. I would love that. So that's the challenge. We hope that in addition to working through the challenge, you guys help us think about how to structure this so that we can scale it up to the entire world and actually launch this thing for real. That's my pitch.
I dig it. I dig it, man. Let's do it.
So it's a short pod this week, but once again, this has been the CAD Class Podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Jake.
And we'll see you next time.
See you guys.